Chapter 4 The Enchanted Chairs by Sky. "Would you like to see my enchanted chairs?" asked Jax, glancing at all of us. "Sky, you too. The chairs will help you heal." As she spoke, I felt as if Jax was putting me into a trance. I'd have done anything she asked. "This way," said Jax, leading us to the observatory through two incredibly high doors. Our eyes opened wide as we entered the massive room. It was decorated with treasures supplied by every High Chancellor over hundreds of thousands of years. Some of the walls were mirrored and others were glazed. All the reflections gave the impression of there being acres and acres of gemstones and jewels and golden plates and goblets that sparkled with every colour in the universe. There were also holograms of exotic locations hovering in the air. On the ground were plush carpets shimmering with strands of pure silver and gold. The whole place was swimming in luxury. Jax directed us towards 12 enormous chairs arranged in a circle in the middle of the room. They were all decorated with images of amazing worlds and remarkable things from the heavens. Right away I had to duck as a blazing comet shot towards me from inside one of the chairs. It veered at the last moment to miss me by the width of an eyelash. Even though I knew it was only an enchanted hologram, it felt totally real. "Far out," I said. "Don't worry," said Jax. "Everything's safe. Just a bit unpredictable. These chairs were my project last year when I was studying the physics of enchantment." "They're sick," said Frank. "I didn't know physics was involved in magic." "Magic is a complex thing," said Jax. "Using both physics and enchantment is the best. Because I'm an ice witch, I have a knack for it. It's part of my heritage. Most people can be taught to use the physics of enchantment, though. I run classes. You should come." Frank's smile was getting bigger and bigger. "Excellent," he said. "Can I learn how to make these?" Jax grinned. "Takes a bit of time," she said. "I designed these chairs to transport anyone who sits on them to places in their dreams. Everyone has a completely unique experience. I just provide a broad theme with each chair: the jungle, the sea, or outer space." We all nodded, but I'm not sure that any of us understood. "Go ahead," said Jax. "Choose a chair and close your eyes." As Jax gestured to the chairs, I could see a long sword hanging from her belt. Had it been there before? I couldn't remember. I felt a surge of fear. Jax caught my eye. "You can see my sword," she said, clearly impressed. "I can." "Good. It's actually invisible, but anyone who's able to see it has a strong chance of survival here." I smiled, feeling very drawn to Jax. "Would your younger self like to sit on one of the chairs?" she asked. "I would," said Six, swooping over to sit on Jax's shoulder. I looked at Jax by way of apology for my runaway self. Jax smiled, and as she did, her face and body radiated a silver aura. It made me become so relaxed that I began to feel sleepy again. "I had a runaway self for a long time," whispered Jax. "I have two," I said. "Maybe three. We're not sure." Jax pulled a face. "Can be embarrassing to have part of yourself being a wild child, especially if you're trying to be dignified." I grinned, knowing exactly what she meant. Ben was about to climb onto a chair when the illusion of an asteroid storm shot past him from another chair. Not wanting to seem like a coward, he jumped straight into the chair he'd chosen. He told me later that as he leaned back, all around him was a vast savannah. A lion roared and started chasing zebras. Ben winced as another lion leapt right over the top of him. Chapter 4.4 The Ocean Chair by Sky. I quickly chose a chair so that I wouldn't end up with the one that looked like a volcano. The idea of hot lava was too much. The chair I chose was so big that I had to scramble up, using its sculptured legs as footholds. Just as I reached its midnight blue cushions, I was drenched to the skin by a wave. I turned to Jax in shock, but she was smiling. Remember, it's a combination of your imagination, magic, and physics. Believe it or not, you're still dry. I felt my clothes, and I wasn't wet at all. Frank also clambered onto a chair, nervous at first, but quickly entering into the magic. "Wow," he said, finding himself on a roller coaster at a fun park. "This is amazing." "Or terrifying," called Ben. "I was nearly trodden on by an elephant." "You'll be fine," said Jax. "Just settle back and enjoy." "We have a wishing chair at home," said Frank, "but this is way better." I closed my eyes and was drenched yet again. This time I let myself be tumbled around by the ocean, enjoying the sensation. All around me, school upon school of brightly coloured fish darted past, and tiny streams of leafy sea dragons. Minnow would love this, I thought. For what felt like hours, I was utterly absorbed by the underwater wonderland of the chair. I swam with dolphins, holding onto their fins as they leapt up. The feeling was sheer joy, mixed with a kind of wild electricity. While I was up in the air, I turned into a flying fish and flew high above the dolphins before diving back down into the deep. After a long time, I was resting under the water when an enormous turtle drifted by, allowing itself to be carried by the current, and then, to my amazement, I was being nuzzled by a whale. Torn between fear and the urge to believe that I was safe, I chose to trust the huge mammal. The whale spoke. "I know where Jemima is." That was all it said before taking me across a vast expanse of ocean to a tiny island. It was the same island I'd seen on the way to the Islands of Time. Jemima was waving to me from the top of some rocky cliffs. She was calling out, but I couldn't hear any of her words except for one. Ransom. What did it mean? "Jem," I shouted, "where are you?" Chapter 4.44 The High Chancellor by Sky. The word ransom floated towards me again, and then it slowly faded away as I realised that someone was touching me on the shoulder. "I have some news," said Angel. I came back to reality with a jolt. "I just saw Jemima," I said, "in a dream." Angel smiled. Fresh from her meeting with the council, she was dressed in extravagant finery, including the glowing helmet always worn by the High Chancellor at important events. She also held an enormous spear. I was shocked by her appearance. She was dazzling. Her elaborate golden cloak was one enormous hologram, which flashed with scenes from battles fought in eras long gone. Every so often a warrior would leap out from the folds of Angel's robe and tackle a dragon with nostrils snorting fire. Her helmet kept releasing flashes of lightning. I found it completely terrifying, but wondered if I ought to stand up out of respect. While I was struggling to get off my chair, I was covered again by a set of mountainous ocean breakers. Gasping for breath, I realised that Angel was speaking to me. "Stay on your chair," she said. "We'll talk about what you saw in a moment." "Are you all right?" asked Blizzard. "I'm fine, thank you. It's amazing." With an air of authority, Angel called to all of us. "Everyone, please, sit on a chair." Blizzard jumped into the volcano chair and was immediately covered in red hot lava. Once we were seated, Angel said, Tell us about your vision, Sky. You just saw Jemima. Feeling nervous, I adjusted myself so that I was sitting in the middle of my ocean chair. Just as I was about to speak, Darling and Minnow arrived with lots of food, a big jug of healing juice and a tray of mugs, each full of steaming hot chocolate. I do apologise, said Darling. We were waylaid by a flock of angels who were returning to heaven. They needed cones made from the pink and orange dust on the mountains of hope and thick ice cream made from the Noesis, so we helped them make it from scratch, said Minnow, looking excited. It was incredible. Darling smiled. You were most helpful, she said. Your skill at stirring added an extra magic to the ice cream. Did you bring us any? Asked Miguel. Certainly not, said Darling. You know how precious it is. Miguel poked out his tongue. Too precious, he said with a moan. I'll have 4 hot chocolates instead. Thank you kindly, Darlington County High School. Miguel wheeled himself towards Darling and Minnow. I know you think your nicknames are funny, said Darling, her beak held high, but they can be hurtful. Did I miss something? Asked Miguel, ignoring Darling. You did, said Angel. I think you'd better go back to the council room and retrieve your manners. Angel gestured towards Darling, who was looking most hurt. Darling, darling, said Miguel, wheeling over to extend his hand in apology. It's all right, said Darling. Perhaps you'd care to help us serve. Miguel looked a bit shocked, but held out his hands to take a tray from Darling. Thank you, she said as Miguel sped around the room handing out drinks. Do be careful, said Darling sternly. Miguel grunted and slowed down. Sky, please continue, said Angel. Tell us what you saw. Well, just now a huge whale took me to see Jem. She was waving to me from an island. It was the same one I saw on our way here. Jemima said ransom again, but I don't know what it means. Well done, said Angel. How does it help, though? Asked Ben. I'm not sure, said Angel, but understanding will come.